What is up? This is Logan Tremellen with the Defying Odd podcast. Funny story, I actually started this podcast in 2018. I produced those 4 podcast episodes, one of which was a similar video that I'm doing right now. Made those videos, then I never did anything else with it. I made like 270 vlogs at the time, and then I gave up that. And there was like a long drought, like a year, 2 years, where I didn't put out much content. You know, I didn't make any podcasts, obviously. I wasn't posting on social media. I stopped making my own personal videos, and I was just working on building a business over the past 4 years, since 2018, actually around the time when I stopped this podcast. I've been building my action sports video production company, now transitioned to a commercial, creative, and digital media company. In this video, I want to go over basically my entire life of why I'm here, why I'm talking to you, just recap a little bit of that first episode and everything that's changed in the past 4 years. So I really hope this interests you. I hope you can learn some lessons from some of the insane adversity that I've been through in my short time on this planet. And yeah, let's get right into it. So to start, I'm going to recap the very first podcast episode that I made and what I talked about that, because that was like the first, third of my story. This will be the last 2/3 of my story. So in 2015, I had an ATV motocross accident. I raced motocross at the national level. I had a small little crash, and it wasn't anything crazy. If you really want to hear me go in depth, when I was closer to the actual time and I could really I could still feel the pain that I was going through, definitely listen to the first episode. I had this crash and I went to the hospital, and long story short, I ended up being in a coma for 9 days. I had 5 surgeries in that time. I ended up being in the hospital for a month and a half. I lost like 30 pounds of weight that I didn't have to lose. I was basically skin and bones, and I was stuck in bed, and I was very, very sick. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. They basically removed 2 foot of dead intestine. I ended up moving back home to Hershey Medical Center. I was there for a few days. Then they sent me home, and it was just a long process after that of, getting back to normal. After getting out of the hospital, I think I was down and just depressed and sad and just not in a good place for like 6 months. And I was lucky enough, and the timing was so perfect that when I was at this down point, I really didn't have anything to look forward to. I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to do school. I didn't want to get a job. I had zero motivation, zero dedication, zero just eagerness in life. I didn't want to do anything. My now stepmom at the time, Christina, she flew my entire family to the West Coast, to California. This was the first time that we all, or at least me, that I went to California. We went to LA, and we went to a Tony Robbins event. It's called Unleash the Power Within. It's weird for me to say how impactful these events and what he teaches is, because you literally can't put it into words. You have to experience it firsthand to truly understand what he teaches, to understand how much of an impact it can actually have on your life if you apply it. And since I attended this event, this is a 4-day event, it's like 50 hours total. You're there from 8, 9, 10 in the morning until midnight, 1, 2, 3 a.m. at times. It's just insane. It is fully immersive. It is just digging into the deep of human psychology, and you can literally reprogram yourself. So I attended this event at a very low point, and I came out and I just understood so much more of what I wanted to do. After that, I ended up going to the gym for like 6 months without missing a single day. I actually started to understand that school is actually important, and I should focus on classes, especially the classes that I enjoyed. So then from that, I started to excel in, my health and my physical vitality. Then I also started to excel in certain classes in school that I just really enjoyed. And then I decided to go to Florida State, and I got back into racing. The same thing that knocked me down in the first place, I got back into that. So the following year, I came back. I was 5 points out of 2 national championships. Then I went to Florida State University for marketing. 1 semester in, I realized that it was not for me. So I decided to drop out, and I started my own company called Tremellen Media. This is kind of funny because this was my very first company. Now it's literally the exact same thing we're doing for clients. Only now we're doing it at a much higher level, and I actually have experience, and I actually understand what I'm doing, where before I was just trying. Now I actually know what I'm doing, and I understand that we can actually provide a tremendous amount of value to clients. So I made a racing comeback. I went to Florida State, decided I was going to drop out. Right around the time that I was deciding that I was going to drop out, I was starting to have a bunch of weird symptoms. I started to get sick. I started to get an abscess. I started to get, a bunch of problems that come with Crohn's disease. And then around, the new year of, I think it was the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018, when I was in Florida, I got really, really sick and I got bedridden and I didn't get out of my bed. I didn't leave my apartment for, 2-3 months until the middle of March, when my dad and my brother actually went down to Daytona for his first race of the year, because he was still racing at the time, and I was super sick, so I knew I wasn't going to race that year. But they didn't realize how sick I was, so they came. My brother came. Actually, I think I met him in the middle of Florida, so I was just ridiculously sick. I mean, this was definitely the sickest I've ever been. Out of the 3 times that I've been really, really sick, this one was definitely the worst because I was alone. I couldn't cook for myself. I couldn't get out of bed without losing my vision and having to basically lay on the floor. I remember I would order Uber Eats every single day, and I didn't have any money to I had no money. I was literally living off student loans while I was down there. So I was using my student loan money just to live, and I would order food every day, and I would walk out to, it was literally 20 feet to the front door of my apartment. I had 3 other roommates at the time, but I really didn't know any of them. I didn't talk to any of them. So I'd walk out, get food, and I remember there was one time where the dude knocked on the door. I walked out, opened the door, and I couldn't even stand long enough to actually give him a tip and sign whatever I had to sign. I had to crouch down. I was like, just give me a minute. I'm really sick right now. He's like, no worries, man. So I got my food. That was basically 3 months of my life, was just being super sick, not being able to do anything all alone in Florida, 15 hours away from any family. So they thankfully came down. It was good timing. They saw how sick I was. And I basically went home with them and went straight to the hospital. I was in the hospital for a decent amount. Obviously, I had a bunch of problems. They put me on medication. I avoided surgery barely. I probably should have gotten surgery because there was a lot of internal damage that I was going to end up living with for the few years after that. But I ended up avoiding surgery and I got out of the hospital. If you want to hear this entire story, I went way more in depth with just what I talked about so far in the very first episode. That's literally the entire first episode is what I just recapped. So I avoided surgery, and I remember being in the hospital. The surgeon came in and we freaked out on her because she came in and just out of nowhere, she said, okay, we're going to have to give you surgery and we're going to remove your entire colon, all of your intestine, and we're going to put a bag on the outside of you and you're going to live like that and go to the bathroom through that bag for the rest of your life. And I was obviously freaking out. I was in a very, very bad place. My whole family was with me, and I just remember I just couldn't stop crying for forever. It was bad. So it was a slow process to get back to normal, to start putting on weight again. I think I had to go home with an IV nutrition bag, and it was just a slow process to slowly start putting weight back on, slowly get back into the gym, slowly become normal. And I remember I was upset that I didn't document this process through the vlogs. So around this time, I started doing better. I started an action sports video production company. So the same races that I was going to before to race, my brother was still racing in at the time. So I just started documenting other athletes racing. I started making little recap videos for them. And this kind of took off. Even to this day, we still work with 30, 40, 50 clients a weekend at every single one of these rounds, 10 rounds a year, something like that. So that was a big workload, So I was doing really well at the time. I think this was 2 years after when I was in the hospital. And it was the off season outside of the race season. So I decided that I was going to move to New York City. I moved to New York City. I was there for 2 months, and then same thing happened. Same thing that happened in Florida. Very similar thing that happened in Florida. I was doing some traveling, volunteering at Tony Robbins events and attending Tony Robbins events. And when I got home the one time, it was right around Christmas. I just felt just bad again. I didn't know what was up. I ended up coming home to Pennsylvania because my dad was getting married to Christina, the same girl who flew us all out to LA that I spoke about earlier. They were getting married, and I came home for that, and I was planning on going back to New York City and then coming back for Christmas, and then going back to New York City because I was living there full time at the time, and I came home for that wedding, and I wasn't going anywhere. I was super sick, and I ended up having to move back, and it was not long at all before I ended up losing 30, 40, maybe even 50 pounds again. Same thing that happened twice before, just losing everything, years of in the gym, years of eating healthy, years of putting my health above everything, just gone again. And in the past, when I got sick after Florida and the surgeon came in and told me that I'd have to everything removed and I'd have to live with an ostomy bag, I would always say, I would rather die than live with an ostomy bag. And this time, this was 2020, I think. I had to move home from New York City, went into the hospital, and I didn't have an option. I went into surgery, and he told me, he's like, there's a high chance that you're going to come out of this surgery with an ostomy bag. He said, more than likely, it will be temporary. The ostomy bag is just a tool. It's a tool that he has available to him, and there's a high likelihood of success if you get an ostomy bag, that down the road that they can reverse it. So I went into surgery. It ended up being great. He went in and he did 3 different bowel resections, as well as giving me an ostomy bag before 2 of the resections. So the surgery was actually absolutely great. And I know that this was much better of a position to be in, because my first surgery was just kind of like pure survival. They were just trying to keep me alive, This surgery, when he went in, he's like, let's do whatever it takes to make sure that this kid, me, can have an amazing future, So when my surgeon, Dr. Scow, he went in and he literally inspected all of my intestine. And I know I literally documented this process of me going into the surgery. I vlogged through the whole thing, made a video on it. It's on my YouTube page. And it's a really awesome video because it literally shows me going through the surgery. It shows me right after the surgery and right before the surgery and then the few months after it. Because yes, I had an ostomy bag. Yes, previously I said that I would rather die than live with this thing. But I think this was honestly the greatest time of my entire life. Yes, so far it has been. Because every single day I woke up, and every single day I had struggles and challenges and adversity to face, because I had this bag that I was going through, a bag on my stomach that I was going to the bathroom through. And it sucked. And having to deal with that on a daily basis totally built me into I don't even know how to say it. I'm very grateful for that time in my life. I am much more of a grateful and driven human being because of that year and a half. That year and a half where I had an ostomy bag. I woke up at 4:45 every single day, and I went to the gym and I worked out at 5:15 in the morning every single day. This was partially because the group that I worked out with was awesome and insane, and they were just true athletes. This was also partly because I had an ostomy bag, and I could not work out unless it was first thing in the morning. So part of it was because I loved it. Part of it was because I really didn't have a choice. And there was just throughout this time, through that year and a half, when I had an ostomy bag, I built my body up to, I think, 135, 140 pounds of just pure muscle. I scaled my action sports video production company to where I was traveling to, 15, 20 events a year, just insane amount of travel, insane amount of workload. That was definitely my most profitable time ever, mainly because it was just me and I was doing whatever it took. I was burning myself out, and I was working harder than I ever did in my entire life. So it took me a few months to get back on my feet at the end of 2021. And then 2022 started. Being normal again really changed my priorities. Since getting rid of the ostomy, I've changed how I train. I'm easier on my body now, but at the same time, I'm doing a training program that I'm seeing a lot more results with. So now I don't work out at 5:15 a.m. I don't work out 6 days a week. Now I work out around noon every day, and I work out 4 days a week, but yet I'm hitting bigger numbers and seeing more progress than ever. And I think that's it's a good priority change because now I'm not working out to just kill myself in the gym, which back then I was working harder. Now I'm working smarter, I'm being easier on myself, but at the same time, I'm seeing more progress. So that was something that started in 2022. And then I was coming into my business season, and I convinced and just made a deal with my best friend at the time, Noah Mickelson, to move to Pennsylvania in March, move in with me and my brother. And he began working for me full time. So I hired my first full-time employee. He really helped me a lot at the action sports events that I talked about previously in the action sports video production company. So I brought him on. We just crushed the 2022 season together, and I really scaled back on the events where the previous year I did those 20 events and just did as much work as I possibly could. This year I really cut back and only did the things that I knew were profitable for us. It just made just a more fulfilling life for me because I actually had time to work on myself. I wasn't just constantly traveling and just trying to grow the business and trying to, scale, where now I spend a lot more time doing things that I actually love and that I'm actually passionate about, and I'm very passionate about growing the business, but the action sports side of things was more burning me out than it was fulfilling me. So I scaled back on that, and I just changed what I care about in my life. So we crushed the season, and then after the season, just recently, in the past 2 months of where I'm at right now, so I'm finally catching up to real time, I've had some priority changes. Action sports video production, there's definitely a big market for that. Don't get me wrong. There's hundreds of different series that you can follow. There's obviously hundreds and thousands of different companies that you can work with. But it wasn't something that I feel like I can reach right now. I've already built up a following of over 150,000 followers, but that's in a very small niche. And the niche we're in, I feel like we're close to maxed out. And it just, I'm not leaving, don't get me wrong. But Noah, I brought him on, and I think it makes sense for me to basically give him more control in that industry. Basically changed his title to Director of Motorsports. So he's going to be basically taking the main lead of that heading into 2023. And I'm going to be transitioning and focusing on commercial business and creative and digital media for growing local Lancaster area businesses. Obviously, we probably will expand outside of Lancaster, but right now I'm just going to focus on Lancaster area businesses because there's a lot of opportunity around me, a lot of opportunity that I haven't been paying attention on. And I realize that some of the hardest things, some of the things that I lack the most with in my business skill set is just being able to sell myself and, just market to the opportunities that I have closest to me. I'm very good at being up in the clouds and just focusing on what I want to create for myself in the next 10 years. But in reality, there's a lot of things that are directly in front of me that I lack doing. And in this creative and digital media business, I can't, miss out on those things. Things like just creating leads and reaching out to people and selling to people and just bringing value through organic content, just like this podcast that I'm doing. That's the main reason why I'm doing this, is just to start getting my name out there again. I saw a lot of opportunities come from when I was daily vlogging, and I realized that that's something that I've been lacking over the past 3-4 years since I stopped. So we made that transition where I am heading the business and the commercial side of things. He's heading the action sports and motorsports side of things. And we've also moved into a new office. In the off season, every single off season, I'm always bummed because I'm kind of lazy. I don't get much work done. I don't push to get new clients or grow the business because I just know that next March, next April, I have business coming. So as long as I can make it to that time financially, I'm good. I don't need to do anything. This year, I didn't want to feel like that. I didn't want to have, that cushion. So I moved us into an office space. That's where I'm filming this right now. We have a little backdrop. We have lighting. We have a couch. We're going to put a TV up. We have a little kitchenette. We both have our own workspaces. So I moved into this one to really separate our lives from work a little bit more, because at home it was very easy to get distracted and not get the work done that we needed to on a daily basis. But also because I wanted to have that fire underneath me. I didn't want to just be sitting comfortably until March or April again. I wanted to make sure that we were expanding, that we were growing, and that we were doing everything possible in our lives to build this business into something that's really meaningful and really valuable to our clients. So that's pretty much where we're at now. We just moved into an office. We've made that big transition where now I'm focused on growing the commercial side of things and really helping Lancaster area growing businesses scale using digital media. And it's exciting. I understand that this is going to be a long process where over the next, 2, 5, 10 years, we're just going to be building up brands like my own personal brand and the Tremellen Media House brand, as well as the Tremellen Media House Action Sports brand. I understand that it's a long process. I understand that it's just a lot of, head in the dirt, just a lot of reaching out to people and building connections and slowly building up our portfolio and slowly building a good reputation. But it's really exciting to me. It's really exciting to understand that this is going to be a long process. And we're just in the beginning, even though I've been doing this for 4 years now, 5 years now, 6 years now, creating content just like this, we're just in the beginning. And that's exciting. So right now I'm just loving the process that I'm doing every single day, like setting up for this video and planning for this video and reaching out to clients and just trying to make connections and also juggling all of the workload that we already have. I just love the process, but I'm also extremely hungry for more, extremely hungry to grow and to help more people. So that's it. That is the end of this podcast. I have some ideas of how I want to continue creating episodes for this podcast, for this video podcast. I just want to talk to people close to me, talk to people who have very successful businesses, talk to pretty much anybody who is defying odds in life. Thank you guys so much for listening this far. If you are looking for digital media, digital marketing, video production for your business, please reach out to Tremellen Media House. Just reach out to me. I would love to work with you. I'd love to see if there's any way we can possibly help you. Subscribe to this podcast, leave a review. I think that's all. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.